Hi, good morning. This is the Bitcoin Morning Brief. It is June 19th, and we have Jimmy here and Tone, and this is going to be a fun one. So, Jimmy, how's it going?
Uh, Pretty good, I guess. I don't know. I'm starting to think that Bitcoin's getting, on the boring side because like the price is so stable. I like it because I can work on my book.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a
Mhm.
good thing. And you're back from Rio, so that
No,
must
no,
be
no, no.
good.
It's Sao Paulo. Those are
Oh,
very different cities.
I
Very
just got in
different
trouble.
cities. Okay,
I
Sao Paulo is more like the New York of Brazil, and Rio's the LA. The two types of people kind of make fun of each other, so you got to be careful.
True. As long as I wasn't CoinDesk that mislabeled the capital, so at least
Well, at least you didn't call it like Buenos Aires or something. Like that would have been really bad.
all right, I'm not in too much trouble yet. Tone, how's it going?
Good, good. I'm off to. I was gonna go to Pork Fest tomorrow, but change of plans. So after the show, I'm driving up to New Hampshire to deal with the libertarians. So that's gonna be fun.
Deal with. All right. Well, we'll see how much trouble you get into. All right, jumping into Square. So Square jumps after receiving license to let New York customers buy and sell Bitcoin. So New York granted the company a virtual currency license, letting the customers in the state buy and sell Bitcoin. This was done by the New York State Department of Financial Services. And they said that Monday that it had approved, again, just specifically the virtual currency license for the company. And just to say, shareholders loved it and stock price spiked. So Tone, what do you think about the announcement?
I think it's cool. I do like the fact that Square, a company that knows what they're doing when it comes to payments, is entering this world of a little bit of competition. Also, Square is a subsidiary of. Is it a subsidiary of Twitter, or is it just like the same CEO or something? I'm not
Yep,
exactly sure,
Jack
but
Dorsey.
yeah, so Jack Dorsey seems to understand what Bitcoin is, unlike Brian Armstrong. Dorsey invested in Lightning, unlike Brian Armstrong, whose company has never invested in anything Bitcoin related, only shitcoin related. So I give a lot of respect for Square, and I hope they destroy all business from Coinbase and Circle and all these other imposters that are using the word Bitcoin and help people get into scams.
Jimmy, what were your thoughts?
Well, I hate the fact that the New York Department of Financial Services has so much clout. We've been bashing them ever since they came out with that idea a while ago. But the rules are the rules. There are more people in New York that can buy Bitcoin really easily. I'm still kind of annoyed because they won't let me withdraw the Bitcoin I bought through the Cash App from like months ago. And every time I try, it doesn't work. So, Jack, can you go fix this so I can go withdraw some Bitcoin from the app? Otherwise, yeah, I think that cash user experience is way better than anything else out there. You can pretty much input a debit card and be able to buy instantly instead of having to go through a week of waiting and so on. And right now I don't know if this is about, and we'll get to that later in the show. But yeah, it's a very convenient way to go buy Bitcoin, and it's very user friendly, which I really like.
Tone, just as a follow-up, they're saying here at least that an analyst at Guggenheim wrote in a note to clients that Square's payment app could eventually turn into a Coinbase-like exchange. Now, again, right now I don't, it operates more like, well, again, just Square and Cash App, where it's just transferred immediately. Do you think that that's actually true, or what are your thoughts on that?
I hope it's not true in that Square is going to be selling you Zcash and Bcash and, I don't know, BitConnect, which is probably where Coinbase would have gone if BitConnect lasted long enough for the SEC to deem them not a security. That seems to be the only requirement. And so I hope that's not the direction that they're heading into. But it's possible. I don't know if Square wants to get into the exchange game you should let the exchange people get into the exchange game and stick to retail clients buying and using Bitcoin. That would be my advice for them. And only Bitcoin. Reduce your attack surface. Try to integrate Lightning as soon as you can. And if you are the preferred Lightning, channel node for people's payments, that would be great. I mean, the Bcash guys will scream centralization on a second layer, but I think that's the direction they should be headed, and not trying to compete with Binance that prints its own money to be an exchange, which will eventually be eaten by the current standards of exchanges, like an Interactive Brokers, like an E-Trade. If Bitcoin, Bitcoin is pretty much outside of the SEC space, so these companies can start thinking about integrating something like Bitcoin, but maybe not yet. Maybe it's a little too early. So we will. So let's see. But my advice to Square is to stick with the payment side and not on the exchange side.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. So we're moving to $1 million box conjures up a fortune for Bitcoin visionary. It is the scariest looking thing I've ever seen, to be very honest. It reminded me of like something that Tone would be put on as a gulag when he gets in trouble in Russia a little bit more. But I will say, so it's this huge box, very simply put, that they're calling the block boxes. And it's currently operating Canadian tar sands country, also not the most beautiful place in the world. This was founded by the startup of Vavilov. Tone could probably help me with these names. And it has, it's saying that this has helped quintuple the amount of cash and cryptocurrency that Bitfury is able to make in revenue. And just as a tiny background, Bitfury, we covered this in a story. I looked back. That they had been talking about opening up another facility in Canada that would have a lot of reserves and be doing a lot. So potentially this is on the heels of what they had been talking about then. But just specific to this story, Jimmy, what did you think about this massive block box, but specifically about the tech and the ASICs and what they've innovated here?
Am I frozen on screen? Just curious.
You are frozen.
Okay, so I'll fix that in a bit. But yeah, hey, this is expected. This is another evolution of mining and people sort of being very creative with where they mine and how they mine. You know that if there's a jurisdictional risk, that you can move these things fairly easily, and portability in mining equipment is becoming more and more of a desired feature. So this is marketed towards those people. We haven't really had need for large capital expenditures to need to move as much as Bitcoin mining equipment has, but it makes sense. So I liken these to kind of like oil rigs or something like that. Being able to put them in a place with really cheap electricity is going to become a thing going forward. A lot of people have thought about ways to take advantage of a lot of the inefficiencies in the electrical grid. For example, when you're drilling a new oil well, oftentimes they have to burn off a lot of the oil in order to get it to be safe or something like that. This would be a good use case to utilize some of that to power and utilize that electricity in some intelligent way. So I imagine these things will continue to exist, and we're seeing innovation at a level that nobody would have guessed like 10 years ago. And that's kind of an amazing thing.
Thanks, Jimmy. Tone, what did you think about this innovation on a follow-up of what Jimmy just said?
Sure. So like a lot of people don't know this, and I was actually recently educated on this. Bitfury was around before Bitmain. They were one of the first ASIC producers They didn't invent ASIC, but they were up there early on, and they actually hit 51% on Bitcoin back in like 2011 or something, or early 2011, before Bitmain came into being. So, and Bitfury is still with us. They are a small, they're still relatively small now compared to Bitmain. But this has been a product that people have been talking about. It was like one of those things where you've heard of it, but you've never really seen it. So these are the first pictures that I've seen of their, containers, the Bitfury containers that are full of mining hardware, and you can just deploy them and move them around. And here's what, and again, this will prove to people that the mining game is somewhat decentralized, more decentralized than a lot of the Bitcoin haters think it is. And more importantly, this goes to my argument of you don't know how much it costs to mine a Bitcoin. Because if you have if you have a connection to unreasonably cheap electricity, you can take one of these boxes and you can stick it somewhere for like 3 months until that cheap electricity, you've absorbed it all, and the government from whom you just got all that cheap electricity realizes that, hey, you are kind of screwing with their local area, and they will make you stop, in which case you should already have a plan of where to move this container next for the cheap electricity. And two, you guys forget that a lot of people have government connections, okay? One of the reasons why you get into government is to, be able to get free shit. So I wouldn't be surprised if the majority of people that are buying these, they're not cheap. They're what, 500,000, $1 million? How much are these things? Does the article say? Anyway, my best guess is between 500,000 and $1 million. There's a high probability that a large number of people that are going to buy these containers have some kind of a government connection where they can get that cheap electricity. And therefore, your electricity costs become very, very small. And everyone that talks about how it costs $6,000 to mine a Bitcoin doesn't know anything, because I guarantee you there is enough people that are going to put this box somewhere where their electricity is virtually free because they're sucking it out of the state and putting the costs onto the unknowing population. And therefore, it only costs them, I don't know, $1,500, maybe $2,000 at most to mine a single Bitcoin with that operation.
So Tone, just to be clear, it doesn't always have to be sucking money from taxpayers. There are places in the electrical grid where they need to get rid of electricity.
Oh, I agree.
This is a good way to do it. And it's actually much more than you would think. The electrical grid all over the world has all sorts of inefficiencies that they don't really know how to do with. A lot of places, electricity costs negative. They'll pay you to take some of that electricity. So, this is making the entire grid a lot more efficient and will help in that regard. Exactly how it'll go and how much it'll cost. I mean, it says that you could get 15 Bitcoin a month. That's that's like $100,000 or something. If you can get $100,000 a month, I'm sure it costs more than $500,000 to get that rig delivered. It's probably on the order of $1 million, because that's a 12-month ROI, assuming you can get free electricity. Probably more like 18 months with for large capital projects. That 18-month ROI is totally normal. So, that's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, no, and I agree with what you said, Jimmy. I was pointing out that besides that reality, that you can have legal cheap.
Yeah. You can rent seek and cheat the government out of money. But
right. There's also the realistic reality that enough people have connections that we wouldn't consider fair because they're government connected. And between those two things, if you are paying $6,000 to mine a Bitcoin right now, you will find your operation in jeopardy because there is enough people that can get them significantly cheaper. In my opinion, because all these people that talk about the price of mining a Bitcoin is kind of overrated.
Jimmy, I have a question for you. This is a personal one. Who's the target market for this product?
Well, I imagine it would be, people that want to make money. Like, if you do have an advantage, some edge somewhere in electricity, this is the way to monetize it. And it's you got to remember, a lot of things are very hard to monetize. You might have a lot of cheap electricity in a particular place. You could try to monetize it, but oftentimes it gets to a particular equilibrium where you can't really make that much money. This is a way to monetize that. And there's entrepreneurs are who exploit this sort of thing, and they're the ones that are probably doing it.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess I meant more on, would it be, I guess, wealthy entrepreneurs that are coming in?
I don't know. It could be startup too, right? Like if you're in Montreal, right, and you know all of you have an edge on the local jurisdiction, and know what licenses you need, all of the power players and stuff like that, then you could probably buy one of these or raise around the funding using VC money and figure this out. But yeah, I mean, this is just one of many ways in which you can make money. This is why entrepreneurship is beautiful. You don't really need to, if you have a good idea, there are ways, or if you have an edge, you can exploit it using these things.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I do think that the mobile aspect is very interesting. Yeah, thank you.
And just like someone sent me like this grid of like every country in the world and their average cost of electricity. I can't find that message because I get like 100 messages a day, but it was a very good graphic. I don't have it anymore. Like Venezuela and like Uruguay were grossly cheap. Other countries were very cheap and others were very expensive. So it really depends on where you're mining. I was trying to look for it to bring it up, but it's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. And again, he's coming from a background of Russia and also China. So it's interesting potentially his impetus for starting this and what pain points he's experienced that he probably utilized in order to build this product, but that's speculation. So onward. Poketoshi game brings Nintendo Pokemon onto Bitcoin Lightning Network. Jimmy, would you play this game? What's going on here?
No, I have that Korean gene that makes me addicted to video games, so I try not to play anything too video gamey because I will end up in a mental ward or something, or I will just die from not eating food. I don't know. But regardless, yeah, I mean, this is a very good use case for micropayments. Essentially, you can do like sub-Satoshi payments, and that allows you to do something like that. You can play this for 10 sats per play, which is like less than a penny, 1/10 of a penny. Like in no other. We've never been able to get down to that level of granularity before. Most mobile games cost a lot more than 1/10 of a penny, or actually it's like more like 0.06 pennies or something like that. And the ability to do that, I mean, obviously this is experimental. Who knows how viable this is as a business, but the ability to be able to do things like this is why people have been excited about Lightning. It doesn't just take over payments that you can do already. Like it's not just replacing something like PayPal. It's enabling a whole new class of things because it's just so efficient. You can pay somebody really, really quickly at very, very tiny amounts, and you can do stuff like this. Now, like, is this the killer game? Is this the is this going to last, and are people going to really like it, and are you going to get mainstream adoption out of this? I don't think so, but I mean, this is the direction I think we all really want to go, is enabling these types of technologies so that, people can come up with even more interesting use cases. Oh, sorry. So, doing this is very important, and getting this tech to work properly and securely is important. And, I'm glad that they've made it, even though I'm not going to play it.
Yeah, it's interesting. And if I'm getting this one correctly, Unity was used for Pokemon Go. And I think that was a good case example of it working really well as well. I know that I'm not going to lie, I have a Unity t-shirt. Okay, Tone, what were your thoughts? I know that you're actually a Nintendo fan.
No, I think this is silly. Look, I understand Lightning needs testing, but can you just test it with something useful? This does not need to be decentralized. It doesn't need Lightning payments. You can centralize this damn thing, use it internally, like, sure, you can use a Lightning to get your, a couple of Satoshis in, but that, like, I don't know, like, people always want to, like, abuse the blockchain, starting with Satoshi Dice.
But this isn't a blockchain though. This is Lightning. You're not abusing anything. The data doesn't have to live on the blockchain at all. You're only settling there later. This is actually, I think it is actually centralized in a sense, but they're only using Lightning for the payment part. If I'm understanding.
Maybe, like, it depends. Just like, you have unconfiscatable money. Can we please use it for something important? Like, yeah.
Can I disagree with you completely on this? I completely agree with Jimmy 1,000%. I mean, even our next story is going to say that, the BIS is, their specific argument is that Bitcoin cannot make payments, that it doesn't have use cases. And I think that we've talked before that without more use cases, whether it's as silly, which I don't think it is, as Nintendo, because gaming has been an insanely successful industry forever. If we can have more use cases like this and it works, then how could consumer confidence not go up? And how could it not help, not the ecosystem generally, but Bitcoin ecosystem specifically? And you're saying that, like, it's a silly one, but so what if it's silly?
I mean, I would also say that getting people to pay is the hardest part for any mobile game. And, mobile games are a huge industry, but, people want to play it for free, and getting them to go from free to paying, even if it's a very, very tiny amount, tends to be the hardest part. This solves that. And it's just one use case. I don't think this is going to be the killer app that brings Lightning to the masses or anything like that, but it's a good experiment.
Right. I agree with, I agree with that. I agree with that. It's just, you also have a Satoshi dot, was it point? What was the
place?
Thank you.
For painting.
For painting. I have a few of them of me on there already. I guess you have to go and find it. I haven't actually gone to that website, but I've seen some of the pictures of me. They were pretty funny.
All right. Well,
I don't know. I just don't care about this. Like, I'm sorry. It's just like, sure, it could be good. It could be bad. I just don't care.
I want to know how much they're making so I can go make something similar and make money. That's what I'm thinking with stuff like that.
I agree. Maybe I'll play it. I don't know. I'm
not playing it. I want to be on the other side collecting the money. That's what I want.
I'm stuck in a chair. Maybe I'll just go all in on this.
You know what, guys? One of these days, what we should do is have a stream that's payable in Lightning, and you can't get on the stream unless you're actually, paying through the channel or something like that. If we could build something like that, that would be interesting. And it doesn't have to be very much. You'd pay like sub pennies per minute or something. But we could do that as an experiment and see if that qualifies under Tone's definition of something useful.
I'm so down. Also, who knows how many like government agency employees actually could get really excited? We don't know that they're not gamers. first of all. Maybe they get like really excited about this, or their kids who like everyone was on Pokemon Go are like, Dad, this is so cool. You should play this with me. And you never know. You never know. It's not illegal right now for government employees actually to be holding Bitcoin or to be processing it. It's just kind of being figured out. So I'm just saying, like, maybe they will love it so much that they start passing this law. But until then, Tone, I'll stop fighting you so you don't get too mad at me by the end of the show. All right, moving on to the next one. So central bankers claim Bitcoin could break the internet. The crypto world thinks that they are missing the point. They are absolutely missing the point. So very simply, so for anyone that doesn't know, the Bank of International Settlements, it's acronym BIS, right? Their mission statement is they foster international monetary and financial cooperation and serve as a bank for central banks. That just like the IMF, which we've covered, ad nauseum, they were established in 1930s. So that should also be a point made that I wanted to make because it's not like they're new. So again, it was interesting to me that they outlined 3 specific shortcomings that prevent crypto for replacing money. And these are 1, scalability, 2, stability of value, and 3, trust in the finality of payments. And one of their biggest criticism, so that was their shortcomings, but their criticism was the decentralization of all cryptocurrencies as being their biggest flaw rather than a strength. Again, crypto is not just Bitcoin. Tone, we've talked about IMF. Jimmy, unfortunately, we missed you on that one show, but jump right in. What did you think about this?
Well, first, was it me or you that you were?
Yeah. Wait.
You got to point to one of us.
Yep, Tone.
Okay, I'll go first. So Avi, I'll let Jimmy talk about how the 3 points that they listed, I mean, they're just misinformed, right? I mean, we're not going to sit here. I mean, we this is what we talk about on the show every day. Obviously, Bitcoin is the most decentralized thing we have on the planet. So it certainly is decentralized. It is one hell of a good store of value, even though this year has not been so hot, but we'll be back to new all-time highs. So it's an amazing store of value. It's scarcity. The Jimmy can speak to the code, and he always does. As far as confidence, which was his 3rd point, was it confidence or was it technological transaction finality? I'm going to stick with confidence. The only thing that matters for a currency is confidence, okay? Gold, no different, okay? Gold, US dollar, Bitcoin, in order for it to be considered a currency, the most important thing is confidence. Now, obviously, the more technologically secure your blockchain is, the more confidence people will have. The less downtime your blockchain has, EOS, sorry, not a blockchain, my bad. I don't know what's wrong with me there. The more uptime you have by percentage, the more confidence people will have, right? So all of that brings on more and more confidence. The Visa went down for 24 hours in Europe recently. So by default, that means that Bitcoin has higher reliability on your payment than Visa over the last year, right? Because Bitcoin has not gone down at all, the Bitcoin infrastructure. So I'm already going on a tangent that I was supposed to, that's all garbage. My problem is the headline. Oh, Leah, can you go back to the headline, please?
Sure. And also the headline of the paper, just so you know, is cryptocurrencies looking behind the hype. But here's the Business Insider one. Yep.
What does this have to do with breaking the internet? What? I don't make the connection, right? I can understand if your headline, I don't know if this is Business Insider being Business Insider again, when they started with the most outrageous clickbait headlines, or is that what they actually said? But this has nothing to do with breaking the internet, right? It has to do with your money sucks and people like to use Bitcoin. That's it. If you want Bitcoin to die, all you have to do is do 2 things. 1, give people the confidence that your fiat money is not going to be continuously printed and that you have real sound money. You don't print money randomly. You only print money very rarely and very strategically. And two, remove all money laundering laws. If the government does that, there is probably no need for Bitcoin. Probably your banks still have to allow you to make, quick payments. But if there's no money laundering laws, you can use your money in any way, shape, or form without, being censored. That's it. That's all Bitcoin is. And they're not going to do that. They're going to go in the opposite direction. And people are going to gain more and more confidence in Bitcoin economically and technologically.
Gotcha. Thank you, Tone. And Jimmy, yes, can you follow up? And also, as Tone evoked you regarding to the tech, and I will say that in this article and also in the paper itself, it really specifically cites that the tech is not there yet, that Lightning hasn't been proved, and that the R&D in the space is not being looked into. So they're really focusing on all the tech issues and they're not even looking at it really. So sorry, I made that a bit vague, but can you speak to the tech issues and what Tone just said?
Well, first of all, are you surfing like Spanish language websites? Why are the ads on your browser like in Spanish? I don't really. Well, anyway, beside the point. Let me talk to Tone's point first of all. I think Bitcoin is more than just an unconfiscatable money. It's sound money. It's got a fixed supply that lets you keep it for a long period of time. So even if the central banks, didn't confiscate money or control it in that way, I think people would still flock to Bitcoin because it is a better long-term store of value, and that's what you want in a money, because you can, you can store value over a long period of time instead of having it inflated away from you. So that to me is the major thing. This is kind of like watching a fax machine manufacturer argue for why you still need fax machines after the internet came along. That's what this article feels like to me. That's what this paper feels like to me. I think it's just safe to ignore it.
That makes sense. I also couldn't agree more. All right, Tone, if you don't have any last thoughts.
No, I mean, I do. I kind of expected Jimmy to say it.
Yeah.
So these tech issues that they are referring to, they're not tech issues. They're your timeline of Bitcoin destroying your currency is maybe a little bit faster than our timeline of Bitcoin destroying your currencies. There are no tech issues. They take time to program and they take time to properly test so that Bitcoin will take over fiat currencies.
I mean, it's kind of like a fax machine manufacturing saying, okay, well, the imaging technology to scan your documents accurately and transmit it over the internet in a reasonable amount of time is not mature. Who cares? Like, it's still being worked on. Right. It's not. I don't pay attention to technical arguments from people that have an obvious agenda. So I that's why I don't really find this compelling at all.
Yeah, and to the IMF's point that we covered recently, right? They were saying fight fire with fire, yet at the same time they were actually pushing for central government coins. So this is, I think, very silly. And to Tone's point to end on, I do think that it has to do a lot with lack of confidence, a lack of trust, that their belief that this is purely used for speculation is what they said, that Bitcoin is purely used for speculation and can't be used for currency. I think it then becomes a bit of a if-then statement. If, we can build consumer confidence, going back to the Pokemon story, through development and greater adoption, then this could change, I think, and that, that they'd stop joining this bandwagon, because with the rise of Bitcoin, I think that these statements will become irrelevant. I think it's sound bites, and they're trying to be relevant. I mean, very honestly, and this is from a World Banker perspective, they are becoming so irrelevant, and very much if Bitcoin takes off, there will be no use of the IMF, I think, of the World Bank, of specifically the BIS. What's their use? So of course they're going to come out with these statements, I personally believe, because they're probably scared out of their mind and they don't understand it one bit, and nor will any of the economists who are very old there and not studying tech trends. And that is a very contrarian view there. So I know I was supposed to end on that, but if you guys have any last statements.
No. And I agree with all that, but like I will agree with the I guess with the central bankers that Bitcoin doesn't yet have the confidence, and that's true. That's a true statement. If Bitcoin had the confidence as a global payment, first of all, one Bitcoin would be over $1 million today, and we would all be using Bitcoin as much as we could, right? So the confidence is not there yet, but it continues to grow, and it's reflected in the price of Bitcoin, and I expect it to grow.
Yeah, and we will continue to make sure that it does. All right, well, Jimmy, inside the crypto world's biggest scandal. This is on Wired. I did not follow it as much as I should have yesterday. What happened?
Well, this is the sordid history of Tezos and what the heck happened over there. The complete cluster fudge thing that this was. Very interesting article. It's the cover story for Wired, Blockchain, a Love Story, or something like that. So, you know, I mean, it's well worth reading. I think we'll probably talk about it a little more tomorrow, but I wanted to bring this up for the viewers because this is what an altcoin ICO type thing looks like. This is the sort of thing that goes behind the scenes. All of the, you know, like power plays and things. It plays out like a drama because it's centralized. And don't let anyone tell you different. These things are extremely centralized and have this drama for that reason. And it'll be a lot of fun to talk about it a little more. I think Tone wants to get somebody on here tomorrow to talk about the lawsuit that they have against Tezos, and this will be a nice backdrop.
Yeah, I'll give it a try. If you guys saw David Silver on that epic stream of like 9 people on the screen at one shot, he actually has a class action lawsuit against Tezos. And the only point that I will make is this is why you as a unqualified investor should not be buying these ICOs, because the everything here could have easily been written about Ethereum, and I wish that it was. Like the chances of Ethereum actually launching were probably 50-50. I heard they almost ran out of money. A lot of people left. Like Ethereum,
They did run out of money. They had to raise additional funding.
Right. Well, at least they raised that without selling an unlicensed security, though, the second round, right?
No, they issued more tokens.
Oh, beautiful. I didn't know about that, actually. I thought I knew the history of Ethereum pretty damn well. So this should have been Ethereum, right? Like this is a company. Ethereum was a company. This is how companies, and this happens to companies a lot. And the only reason why this is such major news is because VCs didn't fund this nightmare. They sold unlicensed securities, right? Like this is the world that we're living in, is that these companies like Ethereum, like Tezos, like EOS are pretending to be some kind of a decentralized blockchain, when in reality, they're a company with a couple of people. That's it.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting if you can get him on the show. Otherwise, definitely let's do a bit of a deep dive anyways. And Jimmy, thanks for sharing the story. So I guess it is circulating on the Twitter sphere. Jimmy, I was going to go into the mempool unless you want to cover these little bit of sound bites first.
Yeah, let's cover some of them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, real quick, and then we'll go to the mempool.
Let's do it. So, all right, Dogecoin transactions are 300,000 higher than Bitcoin Cash.
300%, Leah.
300% higher than Bitcoin Cash. I am be cut off as the host today. Don't please take this over for me before I say something.
Oh God, no, it's okay. You're still dealing with post-surgery.
Anesthesia and
Yeah.
opioids or whatever it is that you're on.
Don't get addicted to the meds.
Yeah. Don't worry too much, Leah. Either that or World Cup fever. She's watching too many games. Maybe the soccer balls are hitting her head.
I'm not surprised. Dogecoin was significantly more honest initiative at a blockchain and a currency than Bcash ever was. So I am perfectly okay with this. I have never actually called Dogecoin a scam. I never really had a problem with it. It was always, fairly created, fairly mined coin. I think they ran into a huge problem with their mining structure, which will happen to every coin other than Bitcoin sooner or later, just from the economic dynamics of mining. And great. More people should be aware of this. And the whole idea that Bcash still has so much value, like one coin is worth so much, is ridiculous. Dogecoin is way more useful and way more interesting than Bcash.
Jimmy?
My personal view is that people use Dogecoin to just sort of transfer back and forth, and the transactions are pretty cheap. I think this talks more about BCH than anything else, and the reason why they have so few transactions, I think, is because it's in the hands of a very few people. I haven't run the numbers on this yet, but my suspicion is that a lot of the BCH is actually just in the hands of a few people. And, they can do a lot of transactions, but on a per unit basis, you're not going to get as much because they're hoarding most of it. I've heard numbers like, 80% of, certain people's holdings are Bitcoin Cash. And it's like, okay, well, if that's the case, and I know how rich that person is, then they must have a giant hoard because they traded all their Bitcoin in for that. So, and, it was, I think, trading at around the 6-to-1 ratio. You're going to have 6 times more BCH than BTC. So a lot more of it is sort of locked up. The irony, of course, is that they're using it more as a store of value, anticipating that it will become a bigger medium of exchange. It's kind of what you were doing with Bitcoin, except now you're in a centralized system. So, yeah, we'll see. The irony is thick on this one.
Great. Live chat viewers, thank you for saying that I woke you guys up. I will take that as the compliment of what just happened. All right. Last story. Crypto celebrity McAfee stops touting ICOs, citing SEC threats. Maybe he's finally doing something intelligent. Tone, I hear he's your best friend. You met him quite a lot. You want to start with this story?
Sure. So it's one of two things. One, either McAfee is tired of no one is paying him anymore to show any ICOs, or he just wants to have a little break, or the more realistic reality, when McAfee started printing his own money with his face on them, a regulator decided to give him a call, and gave a call to his lawyer. So maybe the SEC called, maybe FinCEN called, but somebody called, and they had a little chat. And I don't think McAfee wants to go to prison at the age of 70, so he's going to keep his mouth shut. And that's probably about it. If I had to guess, that's what happened. So that's about it. So hopefully he'll stop showing ICOs, and people will realize that for the first time in a while, McAfee might actually be right, that a lot of these ICO creators are actually going to go to prison, which they probably won't. They'll just pay a fine. And I don't want people to actually go to prison, but I want them banned from ever raising money again, ever programming again, ever being on a board again, or being a financial advisor again, right? They can go and get a job, can go work at McDonald's, be more productive than building Ethereum. You'll probably do well, maybe not McDonald's, but go work at like a healthy food place, and it'll do more for society than Ethereum will. That's kind of what I'm hoping for in this space.
Tone. Well, also because he's running for POTUS 2020, obviously he needs to be very conscious of his campaign. But also, if we read it here, it says due to SEC threats. To your point, it's not entirely clear if he's just talking about SEC threats in general to ICOs, or, as you said, ICO threats potentially going his way. It also says at the end of his tweet, I'm writing an article on an equivalent alternative to ICOs, which the SEC cannot touch. Now, we've found out that he's been quite strangely creative recently, so I will be curious of what that means. But turning it to you, Jimmy, what did you think when you read this? And it was on Bloomberg article.
I'm generally very skeptical of this guy. He's you know, like McAfee, the antivirus software. Ever since I installed that and discovered how annoying it was, I've been very suspicious of this guy. And if you study his history a little bit, there's a lot of sketchy things going on with him. So not surprised that he's done, ICOs or whatever. I would not touch anything he touches. Just that's my quick take.
Couldn't agree more. I also, that video with you, Tone, that was beyond obnoxious when he was talking about how all cars like that must deserve a chauffeur. Although I appreciate that you offered to step up as Nick's chauffeur. That was interesting.
I did. I think it's a more productive job than creating Ethereum.
All right. Well, Jimmy, Bitcoin, what's going on with mempool?
Well, it looks like there's a large number of transactions in the mempool at the moment, but they're mostly between 0 and 10 Satoshi per byte. You could probably get something in for like 10 to 12 if you need next block. I'm thinking you can probably get in something today at as low as 1 or 2, but if you want to be a little bit safer and get in the next few hours, I would do 3 or 4. But yeah, it's it's normal. You can see what happened overnight. All the mempool clears right away, so we're good.
Great, thank you, Jimmy. And Tone, TA.
Okay, let's do TA real quick.
Some interesting price action.
Yeah, we bounced yesterday. I mean, not much happened from our last show yesterday. We bumped during the show yesterday. We're pretty much at the same level we were during yesterday's show. So there's nothing in addition that I can really say. We fell out of this triangle a little too early. And I find it amazing how people keep saying how wrong I am on Bitcoin going to 5,000 or 3,000 or 1,000. Guys, my targets are probably as late as next year. I can't be wrong on Bitcoin going to 3,000 until, let's say, 2022, right? I mean, the bear market can play out longer than you realize, right? So people are absolutely amazing. I'm running into the same problem. My friend Van Zen, when we did that show in early January, before this big nosedive from like 13,000, Van Zen talked about how a drop to, me and him both, a drop to 7,000 was imminent, and his ultimate target is $2,000 on the bear market. And I'm recently hearing that he's getting nervous that we're falling too fast, and his target is 2,000. And he's scared we're falling too fast for that target. And people think that we're wrong predicting low prices. People's time frames are just totally, like the opposite of what they should be. And it makes sense because none of these people are really traders. They're just like hoping. Look at your volume drop off. And we fell out of this triangle a little too early. So it's possible that this is a fake breakdown, but this has nothing to do with the bear market ending. Absolutely nothing. In fact, you had the lowest closing low in this entire bear market trend. If anything, I am more bearish this week than I was 2 weeks ago when the price was above $7,000 or at $7,000, because a lower closing low tells me that there's more lows to come. We are on a 6 of 9. I'm still looking for $5,000 in the first half of July. That remains my target. I still think we are equivalent to September of 2014, though I'm not going to pull up the history of those of 2014. Here's the daily chart. This daily chart continues to have negative money flow, which is slowly getting back to zero as the price is slowly rebounding. Based on a daily chart, there is this possibility that the price can go as high as $7,050 and meeting somewhere in the combination of the declining, what is that? That looks like the 30-day moving average. I don't know how important the 30-day moving average is, but that's the 128-day moving average, which is more important, and it'll take a little while for this to drop off. But I can certainly see us going back to 7. But if you're entering bullish trades, remember, your reward is small and your risk is very, very high. So it's a high risk, low reward trade. You can do it. I mean, I was worried about a minor bear trap in this area, mostly because we fell a little too fast and a little too quick. But this is how these descending triangles form. Let me go to the 12-hour chart. I used to have a triangle on this, like a giant symmetric triangle. I still do. This is how these triangles form. You know, every time you bounce less. And now we have this giant symmetric triangle, and based on a weekly chart. And you see you're struggling with this red line. I must have talked about this red line in the past, otherwise it wouldn't be here from past videos. And you're struggling to break this line, the 67.50 line. Now, the good news for the bulls is the more attempts you have to break this line, the higher the probability of breaking the line. And if you break this line, you're then going to get stuck over at the $7,000 line, right? The same line that's resistance on the daily chart. So I have no idea if this line is going to break. I am absolutely 50-50 and neutral on the 12-hour and daily chart, maybe even the 4-hour chart. And if we do break this line, I will probably be a bear at the $7,000 mark, looking for significant downside. Here's the 4-hour chart. Again, here is that pretty much the same line. This is that dotted line. This is my setup trend line. It's a little bit higher, just above 6,800. And the 4-hour chart is giving you an 8 of 9. So sometime later today, you could have a 9 sending you back down. So I would be short-term bear. Everything here is the result of like probably one trader that may knew what he was doing, but probably didn't. And again, I don't expect this to last. This is not the kind of move, and this is not the kind of volume. And people are wondering why I'm suddenly talking more about volume. I don't know. I started looking at it again, and I'm mentioning it. Though you don't need volume. I could have told you what the volume spike was on this candle, relatively speaking to other candles without looking at volume. And we'll probably go back down later tonight. Will we go down and break new lows? I have no idea. But if we break new lows, if we go below 62, 6,100, it's going to get real ugly real quick. My target remains just under 5,000 in early July. The 1-hour chart isn't really telling you anything. Someone said something about the stock market taking a dive today. Makes sense to me. You're coming off a 913 sell on the S&P weekly. You're coming off a 9 on the S&P daily. However, it's possible that your daily is going to reverse as of tomorrow, because of this 9 being a 1 to 4 candle correction, having completed a 9 above the setup trend line. But this weekly chart is telling you of a 1 to 4 week correction. And while a 1 week correction is enough, we don't know. So I would not touch the S&P 500 until it went above the high of the doji. So I would be a raging bull of the S&P 500 upon a close or a print with some momentum above 2780. So it makes perfect sense that the S&P is taking a little bit of a break.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this episode and have a wonderful day. Jimmy, when is your next conferences?
Not conferences, but seminars, Leah. Seminars. My next seminar
is having a rough day.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. She's recovering. I am planning to do Denver on July 9th and 10th, and then I will do San Francisco July 26th, 27th. I am looking at Chicago late August, Prague in October. I still have to finalize the both of those places, and it'll be fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Pork Fest for you?
Yeah, Pork Fest for me. The next few days, I'll drive to Montreal on Friday to do my workshop there on Saturday. And Jimmy, I'll see you in Prague. We're at the same conference there. And are you going to Lisbon for building?
I can't do that one.
I'm still 50-50 if I'm gonna go to that in July. But yeah, other than that, I guess I'll see you in Prague probably next.
Awesome. All right, gentlemen.
All right.
Until probably tomorrow. Have a great day.
Bye, guys. What? Sorry.
Jimmy.
Oh, this song is done.
All right.
Good luck trading, guys.